Now to West Africa, because Liberia's presidential election is heading for a runoff. The country's election management body moments ago announced that none of the aspirants contesting this year's polls secured the required 50% plus one threshold required under Article 83, Clause 3 of the country's constitution. Liberia's incumbent President George Weah, who is seeking re-election on the ticket of the Coalition for Democratic Change, secured the highest votes of 804,087, representing some 43.83% of the valid votes cast, but will have to run a second contest with the main contender, Joseph Boakai of the Unity Party, who got some 796,961 votes, representing 43.44% of the valid votes cast. The outcome of the 10th of October contest will now have to be decided, with a new contest slated between the two leading figures in the elections on November 12th.
Constituting 43.83%. Wako Jeremiah Z votes obtained 9,149, constituting 0.50%. Yofi Luther N. Rebuilders votes obtained 6,479, constituting 0.35%. Total valid votes 1,834,516, constituting 100%. Total invalid votes 114,639. Total votes 1,949,155. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, the results of the 10th October 2023 polls show that the ticket of the Congress for Democratic Change, CDC, obtained the highest number of votes, 804,087, constituting 43.83%, followed by the ticket of Unity Party, which obtained 796,961 votes, constituting 43.44%. However, ladies and gentlemen of the press, Article 83B of the Constitution of Liberia requires that for any presidential ticket to win outright on the first ballot, that ticket must acquire at least 50% plus one of the valid votes cast. Article 83B further states that where no presidential ticket obtains at least 50% plus one, the two presidential tickets that receive the highest number of valid votes shall participate in the runoff election to be held on the second Tuesday following the expiration of the time provided for in Article 83C. With the results of the 10th October polls showing that no presidential ticket obtained 50% plus one vote, the runoff election is hereby declared to be held on Tuesday, 14 November 2023, between the two tickets that obtained the highest number of votes: the presidential ticket of the Coalition of Democratic Change, CDC, led by Mr. George Weah, and the presidential ticket of Unity Party, UP, led by Mr. Joseph Boakai. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, political campaign for the 14 November runoff election is hereby declared open today, 24th October 2023, and shall close on the 12th of November 2023 at 11:59 p.m. All of the results read can be found online, results at necliberia.org. I thank you.
And that's the latest that we're getting through from Liberia, which is now knowing the fate of the presidential aspirants. George Weah, although leading with some 43.83%, will still have to wait a little while longer to know his fate, as he will now be running against Weah in the next round of the elections, pushing the elections into a runoff. Is the reason for which I want to hear from two individuals tonight. First off, Nana Yaojima, who's been covering the elections for us, and I'll be bringing in the resident representative of the Economic Community of West African States, Josephine Nkrumah, who's joining us from Liberia. Thank you all for spending some time with us. I want to start off with you, Josephine Nkrumah, since you are the resident representative of ECOWAS in Liberia. You were at this very news conference when, of course, all of this was unfolding, but it then brings us back to the efforts of the community itself, ECOWAS, towards consolidating the democratic gains that Liberia appears to be making this time round. What was that secret, the magic one from ECOWAS, trying to bring all parties on board to stay true to the cause of democracy, beautifully being displayed now as we see?
Thank you very much. Do you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much for the time. Yes, indeed, ECOWAS has been particularly concerned about the elections in Liberia for a few reasons. Notably, ECOWAS has really worked with Liberia during the conflict, post-conflict, and helping to set Liberia back on a democratic process. And whilst we have seen a few elections in the last few years, this particular election was important for the ECOWAS Commission because this was the first time that Liberia was conducting elections without the presence of UNMIL, without the support of UNMIL. It was also the time, this time around, Liberia was conducting elections, having migrated from the OMR registration process to a biometric voter registration process to ensure that we did not see a distortion of the choice of the people through multiple registration and multiple voting. Instructively, this is also 20 years since Liberia signed on to the Comprehensive Peace Accord. Having said that, within the context of the region itself, you would note that the region is experiencing a recurrence of some coups d'etats. We have 4 countries that are currently in the state of unconstitutional leadership, and most of these have occurred as a result of elections. Liberia became the spotlight for the ECOWAS Commission because we need to turn the tide around. More importantly, we need to entrench the democratic process here in Liberia. It was a test to ascertain if Liberia is really on that journey of democratization, and we saw that amply demonstrated during the voting process and the entire electoral process here in Liberia.
In fact, the international community appears to be watching this, given the fact that the president of the country, George Weah, gave his assurances at the UN General Assembly, where he gave, that firm word to the community that Liberia indeed will run a democratic process. Do you sense that all stakeholders are on board towards achieving that and ensuring that there is peaceful elections as we're all hoping for?
Well, I think firstly, we must remind ourselves that all political parties and indeed presidential candidates signed on to the Farmington River Declaration, which really was an opportunity for parties to publicly commit to a peaceful process, to abide by the rules and laws of Liberia when it comes to elections, to ensure that they played their role in a transparent process that held all the standards of international best practice when it comes to elections. Have we seen that demonstrated? Largely so. We have seen a lot of all the parties conduct themselves to this process. We've actually seen parties or candidates where they have deemed that the votes or the process was irregular, they have taken these matters to through the hearing process that the NEC provides. But of course, we've also seen some challenges through the utterances of key political actors. And behind the scenes, ECOWAS, the AU, the UN, we've been working largely with all of the parties to ensure that we shepherd a process that results in a peaceful electoral outcome. And so far, it has been good. There's been a lot of preventive diplomacy behind the scenes, and we have seen parties and political leaders cooperating with, the entire process, cooperating with the international community. And so for me, I think that there's been an ample demonstration of the role of ECOWAS, the AU, the UN, but more importantly, it's shown that Liberian political stakeholders understand the essence of a peaceful process in order to deepen democracy, and this really has been to the high commendation of all of us towards Liberia.
Right, and this is where also many are on the lookout for the instrumentality of the long-term election observer mission that ECOWAS deployed to Liberia. The election is at its crucial stage. By all means, two individuals, they've been running, not just in this very election, but in previous times as well. We've seen Weah neck and neck with the incumbent George Weah. The reason for which you've done some observations through the team that you're deploying to observe the elections and also making some recommendations. As you move into this runoff stage, what are the key recommendations and how are you working to ensure that the National Elections Commission in Liberia delivers a peaceful elections?
I think undoubtedly the final outcome is an outcome that should be peaceful, an outcome that is acceptable to all of the parties. In the event it is not so, we should use the appropriate legal channels to seek redress. But having said that, I think the key recommendations is that in this particular instance where we're going through a second round, the stakes are really high. One of the things we noted, which was of grave concern to many observers, was the negative impact of social media to raise tension, disinformation and misinformation. Those were key concerns that we witnessed. It raised a lot of tension in the public space. And what we sought to do was to ensure that Liberia's National Elections Commission, especially when it related to the role of the National Elections Commission, that their communication strategy was timely and responsive, and it dispelled the rumors. Also important was the role of the joint security here in Liberia to quell any tensions, to ensure that the parties or actors remain calm and they used the legal channels to address any issue. So social media is a key concern. This time round, knowing that it's just these two parties, we all understand that the stakes are really high. And so we need to step up issues in terms of timely communication, step up issues in time of ensuring that at the time that people are voting, we have adequate security and security personnel there to quell and bring about law and order and calm. Of course, the messaging of all the political parties, and in fact, in this time, the two political parties, is equally key. Utterances of political leaders, utterances of the hierarchy of parties is also of immense importance. And through our preventive diplomacy, we would step up, understand, profiling the terrain and providing the needed interventions where necessary to ensure a peaceful outcome. Of course, I must add, let me just add that the role of all citizens is also important at this point in time. Many citizens speak about the essence of peace to development, and at this time, citizens need to conduct and comport themselves in a manner that assures all of us that the peace that has been maintained in Liberia is truly consolidated during this election period.
And I appreciate the fact that this is a very busy moment for you, but just take a minute to also comment on this as we wrap up. In just a minute, the belief that delivering a peaceful elections in Liberia will be a feather in the cap for ECOWAS, knowing that the SAP region has grappled with the growing trend of, unconstitutional removal of governments. The West Africa SAP region is still dealing with that threat even as we speak. Do you feel that the democratic process in Liberia can send that good signal to the rest of the SAP region that indeed we need to give democracy an opportunity?
I believe very strongly that yes, so far Liberia has delivered. We have seen a process that has been free, fair. We have seen a process of transparency. We've seen the integrity of the process. We have also seen the unprecedented turnout of voters in Liberia to go and cast their vote and determine who leads them in the next administration. It's amply demonstrating that Liberians are truly aware of their democratic journey. They are aware, and democracy is really alive here. So for me, that gives us hope, that gives us optimism, and we will continue to work with Liberia. So first and foremost, we must commend the people of Liberia. We must commend the National Elections Commission, the Joint Security, and all those who have supported this process, national and international stakeholders. But more importantly, the role in working together as a regional body, working with our member states, has been amply demonstrated here.
Right.
It's not just the long-term observers or the short-term observers that ECOWAS has deployed to, observe the process and make pronouncements thereon, but more importantly, the role that ECOWAS has played during the two cycles. That has also been an important aspect of what we're doing here.
Josephine Nkrumah is the ECOWAS ambassador to Liberia. Josephine, we'll see you again after the November 12th exercise. Thank you. And we stay on this briefly because my colleague Nanaya Aljuma has been monitoring the exercise for us. Nanaya, in just a minute, sum it up for us. So we are at a point where, of course, the National Elections Commission in Liberia says none of the leading aspirants has the constitutionally required votes. The numbers, 50% plus one. So what's next on November 12th? Kindly unmute for me so I can hear you, Nanaya. Nanaya, I hope you can hear me. And of course, we'll definitely be connecting with Nanaya Aljuma. Yes, Nana, briefly, just land on that point for me. Okay, we'll do that. Yes.
From the Electoral Commission of Liberia, they will have to go for a runoff, and that is set for November 14th, next month. That's next month. So Liberia will go for another election, and it will be between the CDC and the UP. And the two individuals or the two parties who are contesting in the next election will have 2 weeks to campaign for to be elected as president. So this is where Liberia is now, and from the information that I've been gathering from my sources within Liberia, all parties are upbeat about the runoff, which is scheduled for the 14th of November.
The coalition process has been a challenge. Deal with that for us shortly. Why are we seeing such a long challenging process or coalition process?
So by the laws governing the election in Liberia, the EC has 15 days after the election to declare results. So they are in no hurry. One thing that they do is that, compared to what happens in Ghana, when the elections are done at the polling stations, the ballots are counted at the polling stations and then forwarded to the constituency level, and everything is collated at the constituency level before these ones are taken to the regional level. But for Liberia, what they do is that from the polling stations or the polling centers, they count these ballots and give various percentages or various results of the candidates out, and after that they take it to the county level,
right,
instead of taking it to the constituency level or what they call the precinct level. They carry it to the to the county level. So all that affects the process. It doesn't facilitate or ensure that it's done as fast as we do in
Right.
Ghana.
No.
So
And of course, the process is just starting. We will definitely be reconnecting with you in a subsequent bulletin so we can expand further on the processes and what's next for Liberia. But we take you now to Cameroon because about 40 people believed to be Chadians and Cameroonians, citizens, have been kidnapped in Cameroon's northern town of Tibor. Sources say that the kidnapping actually was carried out by suspected bandits in northern Cameroon on Sunday. They targeted and ambushed the traders returning from the Toburu market where they traded cattle. Colbert Kwan is a multiple award-winning content creator, radio host, digital rights advocate, and also a campaigner for Borderless Africa. Is joining us for a brief conversation on this. Thank you for spending some time with us. The latest reports we're hearing of, and let's begin with the general outlook of crime in Cameroon, because that's come up strongly. What can you report from where you are?
So it's a very sad situation that we got up to, because this happened on a Monday when there was a popular market in the northern region of Cameroon. And to understand the situation, you need to also know that northern Cameroon is just like northern Ghana, and people are struggling on a daily basis. And those who are moving from, say, Paga, moving down to Tamale, imagine that in the process they're being kidnapped. And so these are because there is also involving students who are moving from neighboring Chad to join the university colleagues in students of the University of Ngaoundéré. Ngaoundéré is almost like a Tamale in Ghana. So that's the situation that we had. 30 of them were kidnapped. The mayor has confirmed, the administrative authorities have confirmed, but from all indications, it looked like it's not a politically motivated kidnapping, more for economic reasons from what we're gathering. More like they were aiming at a cattle market. People were coming from the market, and students who are moving in from northern Chad to join to start the university here that is Cameroon.
Right. And what's accounting for the increase in the number of kidnapping cases that we're seeing in the north? What are official sources telling us?
Not just in the north, we also have it in the English-speaking regions, that is in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. They're increasing. Every day, we're also having it in the eastern part of Cameroon. There seems to be some breakdown of law. There seems to be economic hardship. There seem to be people that think that they can make fast money. The Boko Haram set that started in Nigeria spread its tentacles to northern Cameroon, and they've been functioning there for quite some time and kidnapping everybody on the way, and so it is increasing every day, and it looks like this is basically for ransom, because we're not yet had any political motives attached to this particular kidnapping.
I see. What has Cameroon's Ministry of Defense been saying about the crime in the country?
For now, the Minister of Defense has actually been saying that terrorists are trying to destabilize the country from both ends. They have actually earmarked the northern regions of Cameroon, the northwest and the southwestern regions of Cameroon, which are the two English-speaking regions, and of course the eastern part of Cameroon with insurgents from the Central African Republic. And so that is the situation that we're having in Cameroon so far. And then the Minister of Defense is actually assuring people that everything will be done to make sure that everybody kidnapped on Cameroon soil is being freed without any ransom, though we know that backdoor negotiations are currently going on.
I see. And of course, we'll be watching the space. But even as we wrap up, what would you say Cameroonians have been reacting? In what manner would you say they've been reacting to these crime reports?
It's been consternation. It has been the fact that for the past 2 weeks, because this happened Sunday, these were already 2 days after no clear indication from the authorities in terms of how far they have gone, in terms of reassuring Cameroonians that their lives are assured and that the work is being done to make sure that everybody can go about his or her business. Of course, the Ministry of Defense and the security services have always said that they are there to protect lives and property, but this is a clear case of armless Cameroonians who are moving back to their homes after a busy market in the northern part of the country, and they ended up 30 of them, of course. You know that this number 30 is so significant in Cameroon because just 2 years ago, students of a high school, a mission school here in Bamenda were also kidnapped. 30 of them were kidnapped, and after some ransom was paid, they were released. So it looked like it's a trend that is not ending so soon.
And we'll definitely be watching that space. Colbert Guan joining us from Cameroon. That's all we have for you in this package of Connect Africa. I'm Blessed Sugan. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com.